am on here today to go live with perinatal psychologist Rebecca Reddin. I am really excited to speak with her. All things about mental health and maternal mental health, and from the whole spectrum, from preconception, conception, to for fertility, pregnancy, and postpartum, well into motherhood and matrescence. This month, so May, has been Mental Health Awareness Month, and we had Maternal Mental Health Awareness Week a few weeks ago as well. And these are such important topics that we speak on, as they make such a difference to so many people's lives. Now I'm going to invite Rebecca in to join.
This is definitely worth watching, whether you are on a fertility journey, pregnant, postpartum.
Hello, welcome. Let me get this. Can you hear me okay?
How are you?
I'm doing well. Is my sound okay? Can you hear me? Check working for us?
It's all good.
Brilliant. That's a win already.
How are you today? Do you want to introduce yourself? You will do a much better job introducing yourself than I will.
I know that definitely. Well, I'm so happy to be here. Thank you so much for the invitation. My name is Rebecca Reddin. I'm a psychologist. I work in a couple of different ways. One, I do have my private practice, Mindful Roots Counselling and Psychotherapy, where I work with individuals and couples on that transition to parenthood and all the clunkiness that comes up with that, and sometimes it's a distinct impact on our mental health. Sometimes it's just hard becoming mom. It's really hard shifting into parenthood, especially in our modern world. So I really love that work, and I've been doing that work since 2010 in one way or another. So I've been in the game for a while. I'm a certified perinatal mental health specialist, and I've done in-depth training on perinatal mental health and all of the complexities and layers that come with that. And I'm the founder of to other perinatal professionals, everyone that touches into the life of a family when they're going through this journey, whether it's our first time or our 12th time, it's still a journey. And I provide trainings and education around how our mental health and well-being can get impacted by that journey. Love that work. Love working with those in the journey and those supporting. I'm a big believer that it takes a village to raise a child. It takes a village to support a parent, and it takes a village to support those that are the village. So we need multiple layers of support.
Yeah, that I'm always talking about that. It used to be this village support, and now so many people live like they don't even live near family or friends, or you mightn't even know your next door neighbor if you're living, say, like in the country or even in a big housing estate. You mightn't even know the people around you, and it's so hard to find that support. I see that like quite a lot, even just with my pregnancy and mum baby yoga classes, and as well as my doula work. It's like people don't know where to go to seek support, and it's usually you will just hear it, might find something online, or you'll hear it from a friend, but like when you're in the midst of your own like journey and trying to navigate how you're feeling and everything that's coming up, it can be so hard to know where to start, where to go.
I think the word that comes up most often is isolation, and the surprise around that. We're kind of told that, oh, you need a community, you need a village, and I know that I kind of expected, like, okay, the baby's here. When do they arrive? When do they knock on the door? Is there a pamphlet? Is there a number I have to call? There was no pathway created, provided for how to access that. And so I, and so many of the moms and parents that I support, find that isolation so surprising. I never felt so alone. Here I was never alone. There was literally always a person with me, this little baby. but I've never felt so alone in that. And I think that's both external. We don't have the village we need, and internal. I feel that isolation, that separation from others and from that like former version of myself. I don't even really know who I am anymore. I'm so sleep deprived, it's hard to think about it. We so need that community, and you're right. We don't really have that anymore.
Yeah. And you might even have people around you, but you don't know how to voice what you're feeling and what you're moving through. And also, like, the support system that is there often don't know how to help. And that's not to fault of them. It's just like people aren't told. Like, that's what I'm always saying is like people want to help, but they're not really sure how without feeling like they're intruding on the space. And then the people that need help and support don't know how to ask for that. So I think like these are really important conversations to have, even if you're not a parent or becoming a parent, that like that awareness of how to support the mothers, the parents, the families around you
Mhm.
is huge.
And I spend a lot of time actually kind of scaffolding out those conversations. How do you reach out to your parents, your aunts and uncles, your siblings, your support networks? Maybe it is a professional for
Yeah.
support. We see that families are relying more and more on professional support because we are living so far from our support network. There might be kind of complications in accessing that either, yeah, that internal permission, or there might be real challenges in that relationship. um, I mean, i I think we're in a really interesting time where generationally we've got a generation of new parents who are experiencing the really normal, I don't want to be a burden, I don't want to ask too much, this is new and I'm supposed to know how to do it. Isn't it mother's intuition? No, it is a huge learning curve. So we don't feel like we have the permission to ask for help. Navigating a parent generation that often feels like they don't want to burden their kids by being too much or offering too much or assuming that they need. There's an assumption, oftentimes from our parents' generation, of, well, they'll ask me if they need help. And it's so hard to ask as a new parent. We really need somebody showing up with like soup and, being like, okay, do you want me to hold the baby or do you want to go take a shower and you go take a shower, or do you want to hold the baby and I'll wash the dishes?
Yeah.
What's the need? That's the kind of support we need, and it's really missing.
Yeah, knowing the things that are helpful, because sometimes that question of like, how can I help? And it's like, no, I'm good, I'm good. It's like actually going in and like seeing, what might could be helpful, and that could be just being like, oh, like it mightn't even be taking the baby from the mom, but maybe you just like you get up and go make the tea, and then while you're at the sink making the tea, you might like just put away a few dishes or like wash a few things, and like and people can feel really awkward. Like I've done that before, and people are like, "Oh gosh, why did you tidy up after me?" And I'm like, "I'm just doing something to help. Like, don't worry.
Mhm.
It's not putting me out. Like, I'm not thinking you're messy. I'm just like washing the few cups that are in the sink while I'm making us both a cup of tea. You know? Yeah.
And and that again, that sense of like, am I a burden? Is it too much? Am I asking too much? Shouldn't I be able to do this all on my own? Can get really, really heavy. At the beginning of my career, I was part of a really lovely private practice called Mobile Mama, and one of the things that we did was we actually went to the house in those early postpartum days and provided like in person in the house. You don't have to leave. Like it's really hard to leave the house with a newborn, but we want to make sure you have support, and it was so lovely. But if I walked into the house and the house was clean, I was worried. That means that
Yeah.
you were worrying about keeping the dishes clean or trying to present for me, when you need to be like on the couch feeding baby and
Mhm.
using any time you have to get some sleep, and to maybe it's, oh, I'm gonna like sit and listen to a podcast for the 10 minutes that I have rather than hoover the floors. I wanted mess. Mess was a sign you were doing it right.
Yeah, yeah, that is, and like just knowing people are just leaning into being like, okay, this is not how maybe they normally live. Maybe there's somebody that does like things really like
Mm-hmm.
clean and tidy, and that can be really hard to then be like sitting on the couch or in bed you know, recovering from birth or like caring for your baby, and this feeling and this pressure to feel like you have to be able to put baby down because this is what we see. Everybody's out walking around with babies and buggies and everybody's putting their baby down and then doing the things. And it's like, no, like it's actually really normal to not put baby down and to actually have to sit back and be like, okay, like I have to be in this space that's maybe not how I would normally like it. And that's really hard mentally to navigate when you're kind of watching everything around you and you're kind of can feel that kind of like stuck, like I can't do it right now. Or why can't I put my baby down?
Yeah. The shoulds show up, and I often catch my clients when they're stuck in a cycle of the shoulds. I should be able to put the baby down. I should be able to keep the house clean. I should be able to, sleep when the baby sleeps. I mean, whatever the should is. And I ask my clients, "Are you shoulding on yourself right now? Because it sure sounds like."
You shoulding on yourself. I like that one.
Because it's what it feels like. We feel awful when we're stuck in shoulds, and it doesn't serve anyone. I think you've spoken so beautifully to that, like normalizing the slower pace of this period, that it's actually what it's meant to be, what it's supposed to be, and also normalizing that can be uncomfortable, especially for doers, if we've lived our life a completely different way, and then suddenly maybe this is the first time we've moved at that slower pace. Ooh, it's kind of uncomfortable. I think that if we go back to the piece around community and village, if we look at those older traditions of support and care for birthing mothers in that postpartum period, we see these lovely traditions of like 30 days of like full on, you are in bed, we are bringing you nutritious foods, we are caring for you while you care for baby, while we establish breastfeeding, or all of these pieces are just there's so much space for that and support to really just be in this very temporary period. And we don't have that. We are sent home from the hospital with, okay, well, mind yourself, come back and get your stitches checked in a couple of days or weeks, and try and get some sleep when you can.
Yeah.
And suddenly we're caring for this little person and wondering why it's so hard. It's because we were never really made to do it in that way.
Yeah, it's like this, like feeling like, oh, it's natural, so we should just like pick up how to parent and mother. And like a lot of people, have never cared for babies before, or we don't kind of live like that again because of that lack of community. We're not used to actually like supporting each other with new parenting, new mothering, and with babies. So it can be a lot of people's even first time to be in that situation. It's like, now I have this responsibility of this extra person, and never mind if this is like, multiple children along the way, or you've had like a long journey to becoming a parent, and then all of a sudden you're like, okay, now I have to like figure all this out, and I should, exactly back to the shoulds, like I should know how to do this, but there mightn't be people around you to support, or there might be people around but they have done things differently than how you want to parent, or the things that they did to parent their kids are not exactly kind of up to date with like how parenting should be now in regards to like safe sleeping or feeding or these sort of things. So there can be this kind of conflict of like, I want help, but like I don't really want help from how they're doing things. And yeah.
I mean, absolutely, yes. And I know that there is this consistent thing that shows up in so many of my conversations of this expectation that, we birth the baby, we birth the placenta, we birth the manual that explains how to care for this little person. And it's so jarring to realize as a new parent that even if we have cared for small people before, or even if we have, maybe cared for younger siblings or, maybe other children in our family, or we have a long history of caregiving for children, we've never cared for this child. We've never gotten to know what this child needs. And it's such a beautiful dance of getting to know and learning the language of, and, figuring out what doesn't work, in order to figure out what does. But because of this expectation that I'm just supposed to know, and the reality that we don't know, we just don't know, it's jarring. And there's this sense of, maybe I wasn't meant to do this. Did I make a mistake? What did I get myself into? The analogy I often talk about is like, before we learn to drive, we're often quite confident that we will learn how to drive. We're like, yeah, I'll figure it out. Sure, it'll take me a little while, but like, I'll figure it out. It can't be that hard. I'm actually usually most confident before we start driving. We get behind the wheel of the car and we realize how many things we have to manage at that point. And we're like, I have to look at my mirrors. I have to manage the brake and the clutch and the petrol. I have to indicate at the right time and think about road positioning. And we see this huge drop in confidence. And the only way that we can gain that confidence back is through doing, through practicing, through making mistakes, through forgetting to indicate and then being like, oh, wait, I need to do that. And as we do, our confidence builds. That sense of self builds. That sense of like competence builds. It's the same in our parenthood journey. We have this huge drop in confidence, and then we build it along the way, just in enough time for the next stage to come along and shock our confidence all over again.
Yeah, I love that, because it can be that, yeah, you're like, oh, I'll figure it out, like everybody else drives or everybody else is parenting, when this is something that I wanted, so I'll figure it out. And then it can be this shock of like, oh, like nobody told me it was this hard, or this is what it could be like, or these thoughts could be going through my mind. Like nobody told me this was normal. And you'll have those moments of crisis that you're like, I can't do this. I definitely did that when I was learning to drive, got out of the car and was like, I can't do this. You get into the driver's seat, like I'm done. And then eventually you will get back in and you will try it again. And you will also kind of have moments like that as a parent of like, I can't do this. I can't figure it out. Just like, tell me what to do. Tell me what's going to work. And and then you'll try again and try again with a bit of encouragement and reassurance, hopefully.
My get out of the car moments most often happened in the middle of the night. My son wouldn't stop crying. I was exhausted and had no idea what to do. And it was like, I can't do this. I don't know why I became a parent. This is terrible. Why is it so hard? Maybe I'm not good at this. Those are my crying in the closet moments that I think we don't talk about enough, how much that is part of the process. And if it's happening occasionally, you're probably well within normal. If it's happening all of the time, or you find yourself constantly or regularly crying in the closet, that might be the time where we say, oh, maybe it doesn't have to be quite this hard. Because it is hard, but it shouldn't feel impossible.
Yeah. Yeah. So what is it, I suppose, you were seeing just like that as like when this is happening quite a lot, maybe it's a sign that there's something else kind of going on there. Is there other kind of signs, say, for people that are, I suppose, supporting new parents like that, maybe will be like, oh, that's something to kind of have an awareness about, or even people that are postpartum or parenting at any stage themselves to have an awareness of for themselves. Kind of, what are you saying?
Yes, and I think it's important to think about both of those lenses. as the support person, what do I keep an eye out for? And then as the new parent myself, what do I keep an eye out for? There's some really clear pieces that I think are great indicators of when to reach out for support or when to get curious about, would an extra layer, an extra leg on your table actually be helpful in helping you enjoy this period more? And that's the first thing. If you feel like I'm not enjoying this as much as I thought that I would, or it's hard to connect to that feeling of, oh, okay, this feels hard, but good or possible. That doesn't mean we don't love our baby. Parents, moms, they love their babies. That is, it takes a while to build that relationship. So it's not always an instantaneous, it's a relationship building. But there's a difference between I love my baby and I'm really able to get the goodness and the joy out of this. And that's one of those things that I consistently hear from my moms who are struggling is, I love my baby. I know I want to be a mom, but this is so hard. And it makes it hard to enjoy the time I'm spending with my baby because I'm so anxious or I'm so tired or my mood is so low. So I think that's a really great indicator. Other things that I always kind of say, hey, let's keep an eye out for. Not a big fan of the sleep when the baby sleeps advice. I've seen those really great videos of like moms in the park pushing the buggy and the baby falls asleep and they like curl up in the park and fall asleep. It's just not practical in any way. But if you have an opportunity to sleep, if you have the support, if baby is sleeping at a time when you can sleep, and you can't sleep. Your brain won't turn off. You're staring at the ceiling. You just cannot settle into sleep. That's a great point to reach out for support because sleep is a core essential piece that we all need, and it can get really impacted when our well-being is not being supported or is feeling a little clunky. But also, if we're not sleeping consistently, our mood is going to get impacted. That's just how it works. Sleep deprivation is used as a form of torture, so it's going to have an impact. So the not sleeping when we have an opportunity to, if it feels like there are, there's a lot of persistent, consistent sense of guilt and failure. All moms and parents experience that mom guilt, parent guilt at the end of the night of like checking in. Did I do everything I needed to do for my baby? Was I a good parent today? And if we can sit there and be like, oh, I could probably do that better. I think I'll do that differently tomorrow. But like, I think I did this part really well. Great. But if we find ourselves spinning in overanalyzing, can't let go, thinking about that one moment where we didn't respond just so, that can be a sign that, hey, something there is sticky. Let's unstick it. Let's make it feel a little bit more accessible. To get that, you're going to make mistakes, but you're also going to do some things really well. If you're having thoughts that are scary or intense, it doesn't always mean that something distinctly bad is going to happen to you or your baby, but it can be a sign of a really common complication of pregnancy where we experience these scary, intrusive thoughts, maybe about our baby getting hurt or, bad things happening, sometimes even thoughts of us hurting our own baby that are terrifying for new parents. But it's actually a really common complication of pregnancy that responds incredibly well to therapy, to support, to psychoeducation about what's going on. And of course, if you're having any thoughts that are scaring you about yourself, in thoughts of not wanting to be here, whether that's, I just want to run away to India, or, I want to not wake up in the morning, or what if I got into a car accident that like I got to spend a week in the hospital and I got to sleep and rest. Those are all signs that, it's feeling particularly heavy, and maybe an extra leg on your table might help it feel a little easier. one of the reasons that I really like working in this space is because it is such a period of change, we can see such rapid benefit from getting the support we need. So oftentimes outside of periods of change, it might take a long time to change how we feel or what's going on with us. But in this period, oftentimes small interventions, small things that make a massive difference relatively quickly. And so we can really change how we feel in a short period of time.
Yeah, thank you for sharing all that. I think that's really important for people to hear, and things to be able to recognize in themselves, because it's hard to know, I suppose, what's normal feelings and what's like, okay, maybe actually need to get more support with this. And I suppose those people that are going into support, so be it somebody like a doula or a yoga teacher like myself that is there supporting people in different ways, or it could be as like partners, or your, I don't know, your sister, your friend, or your mum, whoever comes in to support you. Like, what are, I suppose, identifiable factors for them to maybe be like, oh, maybe I need to approach a conversation here, which can be hard in itself.
Absolutely. And I do want to speak to the how do I bring that up in just a minute, but really common kind of indicators that it might be good to check in just to get curious with someone are, we might often think about, postpartum depression, tearfulness, withdrawal, sadness. And this is one type of kind of complication of pregnancy, although depression in pregnancy is often a really anxious depression. So it often doesn't look like that really tearful, I'm sleeping all the time, I can't get out of bed type of depression we see outside of parenthood. But that would be an indicator. More often what I see is patterns of perfectionism. I have to be the perfect parent. And real fear about doing it wrong, real fear about making a mistake, maybe having a hard time allowing other people to engage in baby care. That doesn't mean we have to let our newborn stay with our mother-in-law for three full days. But if we're having a hard time letting anyone else hold the baby while we use the toilet or get a glass of water, if we are feeling really anxious about that, or if we're consistently having this narrative of, I'm just failing, I'm not doing enough, and we're constantly trying to catch up, that's a great indicator. Tiredness and difficulty sleeping, difficulty getting enough sleep, really normal, especially in those early days and beyond for a lot of kiddos. They impact our sleep for sure. But if we say, hey, I'm here. Would you like to take a little bit of time and go get some sleep? I can mind the baby. I'll come get you if there's anything that the baby needs. I'm going to be right here with them. How's that sound? And they're like, yeah, that actually probably would be good. And they can't sleep. They're like, yeah, I laid down. I couldn't turn. I was just worried about the baby, so I thought I'd come out and check. I couldn't turn my brain off. I just couldn't fall asleep. Or if, again, there's that persistent fear of like, no, I can't leave. That's really good. We often think about with moms in particular that there might be this sense of, we'll see it in how they're caring for themselves. Like they'll be disheveled, they'll be, they won't be taking care of themselves. But it's actually quite common that with our more anxious moms, they might really be afraid of that judgment. Oh, I can't let anybody else know I'm struggling. So they might show up with the hair done and the makeup done and the perfect outfit. The baby's in the cutest little outfit, and it looks like from the outside that they have it all put together. But as you hear them talk about not sleeping, about worry about the baby, spending a ton of time researching. They look put together, but they haven't eaten anything today. Maybe they had half a cup of cold coffee, even though they had a chance to get something to eat because the worry is taking up a lot of space. I want to note here that dads and partners can also struggle, and for both mom and dad, anger, frustration, irritation, annoyance, rage can be another sign that we're struggling. And then a lot of shame around those feelings for both partners. Dads or male partners often will either display kind of some of those anxious pieces, or they might kind of withdraw. I'm going to return to work early. I'm going to go help the neighbor build the swing set that rather than being here because I'm feeling really overwhelmed and stressed. Bringing up that conversation can be hard, but I think if we come from a place of curiosity, of care, of, hey, I really care for you, this whole becoming a parent thing is really hard. It's really challenging, and a lot of us find it clunkier than we expected. I wonder how you're finding it. I wonder what you're finding difficult. I wonder what surprised you. We can open up the conversation that way and see, will they share that with us? If there, because of the shame and stigma about struggling in this period, if there's some reluctance to that, which would be understandable, there's a lot of fear there, we can again lean in with, maybe if we've had our own experience, or we've supported other parents, or we work in this area, we might say something like, a lot of the parents that I know find that they're a bit more anxious or a bit more overwhelmed, or that they feel lots of guilt. I wonder, has that been part of your story? Or I notice you haven't been sleeping a heck of a lot. I wonder if you're finding it challenging too. Again, just curiosity questions and that non-judgmental piece. We always want to wrap up with, hey, if you're ever struggling, you can always talk to me about it. You don't have to hold that on your own. I'm happy to support you however I can, or get you connected with somebody who has the tools you need.
Yeah, I love that. It's that curious questions to see what they share, and see what actually comes out when you directly ask, but in a gentle way, having that awareness of how you put that question together, how you ask that question, and hopefully, the either parent that feels comfortable sharing with you what that is, and again, meeting that with love and kindness, just simply, being like, yeah, a lot of parents can feel like that, or if it's a personal, the personal connection that you're supporting, that I felt that too, or I know people that have felt that way, and yeah, being able to be like, let's see how we can help you and support you through that. And I think we can all do that, be it professionals like ourselves, or be it partners or family members or friends or even neighbors. You might notice little things, and just anybody can make such a difference by just having that kindness and openness to actually conversation, and not just asking, oh, how's baby sleeping, meeting with those general questions that are just like, a baby sleeping crap, of course, or just being like, yeah, they're sleeping great, and deep down inside just not wanting to go into the conversation, but actually asking how are you doing, or what are you finding hard, really meets where you might actually get an answer. Yeah, I love that. And you did touch a good bit there on postpartum depression and postpartum anxiety. But postpartum OCD is something that I had never heard about when I became a mom, and that was 11 years ago. But it's something that I heard a good few years back now when I did my doula training. And I'd love, could you share a little bit about that? Because I feel like that's something that's not spoken about very often, that we mightn't even know, a lot of people mightn't even know is a thing.
100%. And the not knowing or not being told that this is a common complication of pregnancy and postpartum leaves moms, birthing parents in a place of, there must be something wrong, bad, broken with me. So I think it's a huge injustice that we're not talking about this specific complications. So, and it's not rare. Initial research was looking at kind of around 8% prevalence. So 8% of new parents experience perinatal OCD. And there's a scale and spectrum from mild to severe. But a recent research study found that it's actually closer to about 16%. So it's not rare. It's so common. So again, such an injustice that we're not talking about it. Perinatal OCD is where we experience intrusive, scary thoughts. So it's like this brain bubble that bubbles up out of nowhere. It can be a thought, it can be an image, it can be an urge, it can be any kind of piece, and it's most often with parents, specifically moms, associated with harm coming to baby. So we're worried about, is something bad going to happen to baby? An accident? Is baby going to be hurt in some way? Or a very common kind of version of this is where we have a thought or an image of us hurting the baby. Now, what's really clear here is that we have no desire to actually follow through on that thought. And actually, one of the things that I look for is that absolute terror afterwards, horror at the thought, fear. So like, oh my goodness, that was a terrible thought. And first and foremost, it's important to recognize that 90 to 95% of all moms report experiencing these types of thoughts, these scary, intrusive thoughts. Imagining the buggy going into traffic, or imagining the baby, dropping the baby down the stairs. These are distressing thoughts. The vast majority of us will experience one of those thoughts and go, oh, this is a terrible thought. I'm going to double check that the lock is on the wheels on the buggy is closed, and okay, okay, I'm okay. And we're able to move on with our day. And these thoughts pop up occasionally. With perinatal OCD, they're persistent and consistent. So they're coming up all the time, regularly. And our response to them, instead of being able to let them go, is fear, terror, and a repetitive, compulsive response. So we do a behavior to protect baby. Our mama bear comes out. We say, I'm scared of this thought. I don't want that to happen. I'm going to take a step to protect baby. So if I had a thought, what if I drop the baby down the stairs? Oh, I am going to, hold baby exceptionally tight and walk along the wall every time I go up and down the stairs. There's that mama bear protective response. If I don't do that, I feel extreme and intense anxiety and fear. We can, it takes a massive amount of energy to manage this on our own. And if we don't know what it is, we might have a lot of fear about, am I the type of mom that wants to do these things? If anybody knew, would they take away my baby? The misinformation around this is so dangerous and so painful. The reality is, mamas with perinatal OCD, it's an overactivated mama bear response. They and their bodies are trying so hard to be really, really good moms that they are responding with more than actually is needed. So all we do is we just turn the temperature down. We quiet those thoughts. We teach our body that we are not actually a risk to our baby, or those things are not a risk. There's several things that are really effective, but we don't have to be struggling with that anymore. So I always say, if this sounds familiar to anyone, reach out for support. It's one of our most treatable perinatal mood and anxiety disorders. It responds really, really well. And if all we have to do is just get in there and get started.
Yeah, I love how it's like simply like explained there, of like that overactive, like, mama bear response of just like wanting to so fiercely protect your baby and so fiercely protect your baby staying with you and staying close and safe and well, which is so normal. But when it goes to, I suppose, those like heightened states of extreme protectiveness that maybe the people around you might start to notice, or maybe you'll notice it in yourself when like conversation or throughout your day, but maybe don't realize that it's, more protective than, what it's needed.
Mhm.
And yeah, as you said, coming back to that basis of understanding the difference of that kind of overprotective and over fierce, care, to being able to just like bring it back a little bit. But yeah, thank you for sharing that, because I feel like there is kind of like I suppose, like a fear and a stigma to talk about it, and also not realizing as well that like thoughts of like, what if something happens to my baby, or what if they, fall from the changing table when, I'm changing them, or, fall from my arms walking down the stairs, or these things are like normal thoughts, but it's that like lingering on them. Because I feel like it can be such a fear of just like having those thoughts, and even if you move on from them, it's like, oh gosh, I shouldn't have thought that, you know, that you feel like you're doing something wrong.
And that recognition that a thought is just a thought, and that I can think that I'm a purple pony, but it doesn't make me, and that we give our thoughts so much credence. And a big part of scary thoughts within motherhood for all parents is the recognition of just because we have thought something does not mean we want to follow through, does not mean that defines us, doesn't mean it gives us value or lack of value, doesn't mean that we have intention. Thoughts and actions are very, very different. And the actions with mamas who are feeling a little bit more anxiety, whether it's OCD or general anxiety, or just that like normal tick up of anxiety that many mamas feel, that the actions consistently are protective. It consistently comes from a good place. Interesting. One of the things that just like always, I think is such an important piece of information. As we talk about all the biological changes that happen to our body during pregnancy, right? We can see so much of it. Like I'm literally growing a person, atom by atom, in my body, cell by cell. Our body's doing all sorts of other wild things, like our rib cage is expanding by 4 centimeters. Our blood volume is doubling by half. Like it's just amazing what our body is doing. One of the changes that's fascinating is we actually see a hyper activation of our amygdala. Our amygdala is the fear center of our brain. That's the part that becomes vigilant, becomes aware, keeps an eye out for a bear in the forest. It's a really important part of our brain. And we've really developed this increase in sensitivity to keep our babies safe, right? Moms who are a little bit more vigilant, a little bit more aware, a little bit more anxious, were more likely to make sure their babies survive. So that natural little tick up in vigilance is so part of normal within motherhood. And if we can just know, oh, there's me being my mama bear, the distress can drop. Sometimes that gets oversensitized. And we just need to, again, lower the temperature, bring it back down to that normal check-in with baby. We should be able to be like, oh, is baby safe? Yeah, baby's safe. Everything's good. Rather than, oh, is baby safe? I don't know. Do I have to check? Let me check a couple of times. I'm feeling really nervous. What if I miss something? That's indicative of maybe needing a little extra support.
And but you brought it back there a little bit to like pregnancy. I suppose this conversation is a really great one to listen to if you're pregnant, to kind of have an understanding of this ahead of time. Is there anything else that you would recommend for like preparing for postpartum? Like I know definitely in my work as a doula, like given that emphasis on postpartum preparation and not just kind of stepping into it being like, yeah, well, like I suppose the beginning of this conversation, just stepping in there, being like, yeah, I'll just figure it out, and then being hit with this realization, especially when sometimes the conversations that we have with other mothers or parents or family or friends, they mightn't always tell you things because they're like afraid of like scaring you of like how hard it can be as well. And yeah, I think postpartum planning and preparation so you're as supported as possible is so important and a big part of yeah, my work as a doula, but it's, yeah, what would you share, I suppose, are things that you see as really supportive?
I mean, I just can't, I can't agree with you more that, ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure is so, so powerful here. And there's so much we can do. Um, I do think that educating ourselves around things like matrescence and, we're starting to just hear whispers of petrescence, that transition to fatherhood, matrescence being the transition to motherhood, understanding the nuances and the layers and all the things that come with that. Matrescence sounds like adolescence for a reason. It's another developmental stage in our life. We're going through a huge shift in our identity, in our biology, in our sense of self, in our relationships. If we can come into that feeling prepared, feeling like, oh, I expect there to be a lot of change,
Mm-hmm.
it makes that a lot easier. I love Lucy Jones's book, Matrescence. It's brilliant. It's so good. And a great thing to read before we get pregnant or during pregnancy. And then maybe reread after baby arrives as a validating, oh yeah, I did go through all of those pieces. As we prepare for postpartum, which I'm 100% on board with you, that is such a valuable part of what we can do during pregnancy. Postpartum planning, who is going to tell visitors, okay, we're tired and we're ready for you to go? Who's going to contact support when needed? Who is our village? And getting people on board beforehand. I mean, I'm a huge lover of a doula. I think a doula is such a powerhouse of support in that. And there's that lovely permission of, yes, I can really ask for help here in that tender, vulnerable moment because I know that they are wholeheartedly on board.
Yeah.
So pulling in that, but maybe it's also if you plan on attempting to breastfeed, do you have a lactation consultant on board? Have you looked at some of your local mom support groups? Have you done some of that work beforehand so that you're not trying to do it when you're sleep deprived?
Yeah, the big
which
one.
is really hard. And then I create with my clients a support directory. So it's a really simple, write it down on a piece of paper. It's got 3 columns. The first one is the who. Who are the people in your village? It's a combination of like family and friends and maybe a great coworker or two, as well as professionals, your doula, your lactation consultant, your midwife, your OB, your therapist, whoever is on that list. Maybe it's a support group that you found. Everything goes on that list. Next to it, in the column next to it, you write the what. What can they provide? Not every support is going to provide every piece of the puzzle. Maybe my sister is like a phenomenal cook and she feeds people. That's how she shows love. So if we need meals, she is the point person. But she's not so great at sitting with tough emotions. So maybe she's not the person I'm going to call when I'm having a bad day. Whereas my coworker is great at that, but she's an awful cook. So I would not ask her to make a meal for me. So we want to get really clear about what they can and have offered to provide for us. Then we put their contact information. So maybe our partner, our doula, our support system can also access. Hey, can you reach out to my lactation consultant and schedule an appointment because I just can't today. We don't have to dig out the information. It's right there on the fridge. And it's a powerful way to help build our community.
That is such a great idea. Like I love that of like making your own list, and it's like a mixture of resources and people. And I do always say that as well. It's like, okay, like people want to help, but they might not know how to help you. So it's like if you know exactly is that, somebody is a good cook, like tell them like, oh, I'd actually love if you could, just drop some like food by if you don't mind or if you want to help. If you drop by food, rather than them come into the door with a hamper full of like, baby grows that are newborn size and teddies and stuff like that, especially if you have friends or family that like don't have kids themselves, sometimes there's that extra layer of like, I actually don't know how to help, whereas I would actually,
Mhm.
and they are the people that have more time to nearly help, maybe, and they just don't know what to do. So if you asked, which of course can feel really hard to ask, but
Mhm.
if you know, can get yourself to a place that you feel like, okay, like I can plan this ahead of time so I'm not also, as you said, sleep deprived and trying to figure it out. And then people also get that satisfaction of doing something that's actually useful. And they're like, oh, yeah, I never thought like cooking a meal would be helpful, or I never thought walking their dog would be helpful. Sometimes people just don't realize that. So
Yes.
having that big list that, yeah, anyone that's there supporting you can lean into. And when you're just struggling, you're like, I'm not even sure what I need right now. Looking at that list, something might stand out to you, be it a professional or somebody, you know, closer to home.
Yes. We forget how wonderful it feels to be the helper, to
Mm-hmm.
be the one who's providing support. We think oftentimes, oh, I'm being a burden or I'm asking so much of someone, but actually, we forget that like being the one who brings the meal when somebody's like, oh, we actually had nothing planned for dinner. I had no idea what we were going to eat. This really helps. And that like warm, fuzzy, wonderful feeling. We forget that other people feel that too.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Also, I've had a lot of moms along the way that they have their first kiddo, and there's almost a layer of grief. It's like, I didn't realize how much support was needed, what actually was helpful. I feel really bad, like I need to apologize to my mom friends that
Yeah,
I
yeah,
wasn't actually able to provide what they needed because I just didn't know. And
yeah,
really normalizing exactly what you're talking about. Unless we've been told, there's no way we could know. You know, looking if we are in a support position, you know, for a family member or a friend, you know, this is a great conversation to think about, okay, what can actually help? I think we've mentioned walk the dog, make a meal, hold the baby while they shower, wash the dishes while they hold the baby. There is so many things that we can do that are small and practical but really do make a difference.
yeah, yeah. Like we're doing the best with, I suppose, the information that we have, and that's something that I always say, especially with people reflecting on like past birth experiences and choices and things like that. Like we did the best with the information we have, but it's that same thing for, you know, when you become a parent and then you're like, oh gosh, I was a crap friend back then. Like I was so bad. I didn't know, you know, I really left them hanging and I didn't give them support that could have been really beneficial. But it's like you did the best with the information that you have, but
Yes.
maybe now, yeah, there's something different that you can do. And it doesn't have to be, you know, giving like physical things. It, you know, again, it's that just like sending that text message or dropping
Mhm.
something to the door. It doesn't need to be some, you know, like financially something. It can be
Mhm.
just like showing up, reminding that you're there, even if the person is not replying back to you. Sometimes just that reminder is like, hey, I'm here when you need me, and like,
Mhm.
you know, I've got your back when you do need it or when you do want to chat, and we're there. Yeah,
And throw at the end of that, it's completely okay if you don't respond to this message
yeah,
because
yeah.
there's often a lot of guilt of like, oh, I haven't had a chance to respond, and now it's 3 a.m. and I'm definitely not sending them a text at 3
Yeah.
a.m. Like that, like lovely permission of like, I know you've got a lot on your plate. I'm here when you need me, and it's
Mhm.
totally okay if you don't respond. I
Yeah.
know, I know you will reach out when you're ready, when you're.
Yeah, it is nice to have that. Yeah, just those little reminders that sometimes you can forget when you're in the, I suppose, the haze of it all, of like, oh, like I've not replied to all these messages from all these people that actually want to support me, and I've not replied to them, and they're gonna think I'm like really bad or whatever it is, and it's like it's okay. And then sometimes people prefer to lean into professionals for support as well, like myself and yourself and like other professional supports as well, and like that's also okay if you don't feel like you can lean on the people around you or you don't have people around you. And then there's also that goodness of both as well, whereas like having that village of a mixture of supports, and as you said from that list, that can support you in multiple different ways at different times and at different stages of the journey as well, is really important, which I think, yeah, that list is definitely something I'm going to encourage people to do. It's a really good one because, again, it kind of helps map out that village. And it's like, okay, actually, there's nobody maybe that can do this and support me in this way. Maybe I need to find a professional that can do that. Or maybe I need to, find a local, parent and baby group or whatever it is to find some community even ahead of time. There's those little reminders when that is done in pregnancy, that when there's more um, sleep and more space to figure out those sort of things, to do those bits of research.
I could not agree more. And I think it's a lovely gift to give to ourselves, a lovely gift to give to the people that we care about and the people we're supporting, if that's our role. Is just that, this is something you don't have to figure out in the midst of postpartum. There's pieces that you can do. Here's a framework and a structure for that. So you don't have to recreate the wheel.
Oh, thank you so much. I think it's a nice place to wrap it up. But is there anything else that you want to share that you just feel is important for, I suppose, people that are pregnant or, some stage of postpartum or that motherhood, parenthood journey? Just something that you think is like, yeah, maybe not said enough, or they just need to know and we didn't talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, thank you for having this conversation. It's so important. I think we need to have it over and over and over and over and over again in as many spaces as we can. I think that the one piece that is a lovely piece that we didn't get to, we've touched on it along the way, but I do think that it's an important piece of the puzzle is the permission to care for ourselves in the midst of it. Oftentimes I find we as parents have a dessert after dinner mentality when it comes to self-care. Okay, once I do all the to-dos, once everything else is done, once I've eaten all my vegetables, then I can have dessert. And the reality of turning to parenthood, there's a lot of vegetables. And we might never get through the vegetables, which means there's no time for self-care. And self-care looks different in parenthood. It's often bite-sized, it's woven into, it's supported. But I like to instead think about a petrol analogy. So if I have a million errands to run in the day, the first thing I do is make sure there's petrol in my tank. I prioritize making sure that I stop and fill that up so that I don't have range anxiety all day long. Am I going to get it through it? Am I going to make it? Am I going to have enough energy? If I think about it like petrol, if I have a full gas tank and I'm running through the day, I'm not on empty. I'm not going to end up on the side of the road. Instead, I've taken care of myself first so that I can show up for all of the things that are important. So I would encourage anyone who is hearing this to think about, are you a dessert after dinner or a petrol analogy when it comes to your self-care?
I love all your analogies. They're great ways of just like demonstrating that. Thank you so much for coming on and joining me to have this conversation and to spread this information, these conversations a little bit wider. And if anybody, I suppose, has anything that has come up from this conversation and they feel like they want more information or anything kind of resonated or just came up for them, you can always reach me here or on my website, which is just my name, nicoleokelly.com. Rebecca, where can people find and reach you?
You can find me either through my Instagram here, and there's a link to our website. I've got some great information, some blogs, some articles on some of the things that we've talked about today if you want to know a little bit more. We also have just grown our practice and have a new therapist joining us, Gabby. She's phenomenal. Not only is she a perinatal specialist in transition to parenthood, she's a phenomenal therapist and a certified yoga instructor. So she's really got that wraparound care. She's fantastic, and she's starting next week. So anybody's looking for support.
Where is your practice based? Is it mostly online, or do you have in-person practice as well?
Great question. So I'm based in Cork, but we see all of our clients online. So no matter where you're located, you can always connect with us.
Amazing. Oh, thank you so, so much. This was such a great conversation. I really appreciate you and your work. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you so much. It was really lovely. Mind yourself well and have a great day.
Bye.